Welcome to the Rural Recharge, a podcast of the Florida Farm Bureau Federation. Rural Recharge is a guided conversation that allows you to cut through the noise and multitude of information out there. You should be able to trust your sources, which is why we're a platform that comes straight from the source, the farmers and ranchers growing what we eat, wear, and use every day. Our guest today joining us is Mr. Ryan Jenkins, a fourth-generation row crop farmer from the edge of Florida in Santa Rosa County. If you've run across any of Jenkins Farm's social media, you can see how important this industry and way of life is to Ryan. In 2020, he won the Florida Farm Bureau Federation Volunteer Communicator Award. He is still going strong, being the voice of agriculture. Ryan, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having us. Welcome to Jay.
It is a blessing to be here and so much. Tell us a little bit about Jay in regard to, people may not know where Jay is. They may not know what goes on in Jay in regard to agriculture, in regard to its topography, geography, et cetera. Tell us a little bit, where is Jay?
We're the shining star of Northwest Florida. So we're in Santa Rosa County, which is the second county from the west. So, I mean, we're about as far in Northwest Florida as you can possibly be. And we're basically sit on the Florida-Alabama line. We're about a mile from the Alabama line. So it's as North Florida and as West Florida almost as you can be. Very beautiful place here. Jay itself is very rural, a lot of agriculture. There were many years that it was also known throughout the world for its oil. So just something it's really, a lot of people call it also the Garden of Eden, just with our soils that we have here and how green and how pretty everything is with our afternoon thunderstorms that we get off the Gulf. So it's just really a pretty place. And it's a place I'm proud to call home.
Absolutely. So it's kind of a rolling hills with steep sands?
Very, very flat, I would say, for the most part. Very few terraces, very few things that we have to worry about on the farming side of things. The soil is very rich. It's a loam type soil, a little bit of clay, a little bit of sand, but it's just something that works really well especially for our peanuts that we grow here. But it's as far as I'm concerned, it's perfect. Absolutely. It's a perfect place.
What else is grown other than peanuts, Ryan?
Our primary crops here are peanuts and cotton, and then we do have some soybeans and corn, and, during the winter we'll have wheat and oats. But primarily, 90% of everything grown here is either going to be peanuts or cotton.
Tell us a little bit about you and about where you've come from and your agricultural background.
Well, I have been here my entire life. My family has been here their entire lives. Jenkins Farm started in 1918 with my great-grandfather moving here from Alabama and farming, buying land here and beginning to farm. And then my grandfather, who I was very, very close to, he farmed and then kind of fell on hard times in the 70s like a lot of other people did. So he had to go get a city job down in Pensacola working with Monsanto. And basically he gave up the farm but they were able to keep their land, but more or less he quit farming other than just one little field there at his house. And he kept that in production, the entire time. And then my father he was a math teacher who has since retired and he loves farming just like I do. And so we have a partnership and we work together every day. And then of course I have me and now my boys, which are fifth generation on the same land. So I think it's a pretty neat story. It shows that, people are resilient. Farmers are resilient. There's hard times. There's good times. There's bad times. But, still, by the grace of God, we're able to continue doing what we're doing and we're still farming on that same land.
Well, that's a blessing. Tell us a little bit about how you believe in getting that story out. You're being engaged in social media and actually become quite popular with it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'll tell you how it started. And I know that's what everybody out there, they're sitting on the edge of their seats waiting. All right, Ryan, how did it start? My path to where I am now looks like a hairpin curve, right? I mean, I've done so many different things. It hasn't been a straight road like some people. I've always known since, the very earliest of ages that I wanted to farm. God put that in my DNA, and that's all I have ever cared about since then. I've learned to care about several other things, along the way. You know, I have done anywhere from a crop duster pilot to a flight paramedic. And if you can name it in between, I've probably tried it and done it. But Santa Rosa County is very unique in the fact that we have some of the world's most beautiful beaches on the south end. It's very urban. It's very touristy, those type of things, very populated. And then as you come north, it turns into a very rural area with, like I said before, we call it the Garden of Eden, some of the best soils in the country, and just really blessed with what we're able to do here. So it's very unique, but for whatever reason, it seems like the north end doesn't talk to the south end. There's not a problem. They just, the north end doesn't know what the south end's doing and vice versa. And so as I started working in EMS, it made me get out of my cocoon of Florida and start going to the south end of the county.
Sure.
And, as I would meet people when I was working on the ambulance and then eventually on the helicopter, they found out I was a farmer. And they couldn't get enough of the story. You know what I mean? They just, when you do something every day, it becomes so normal to you, you don't realize anybody else would have a care in the world about it. It's just the way it's supposed to be. You don't realize you're doing anything special or anything else. So those people really, they basically lit a fire in me, if that makes sense. Once I realized, hey, I've got a cool story to tell, well, then I couldn't shut my mouth, right? I just kept on telling everybody that would listen. And it's grown into what it is today. I truly believe, from all the different things I've done over the past several years, that the general population is hungry for our story. They want to know. There is so much misinformation out there.
That's right.
But once they meet a real person that actually does it, I realized we have the power to change their perception of us. I don't want to be considered someone that's not being good to the environment, somebody that's trying to kill you, all these different things that people have come up with over the years. And that's happened because people are more removed from the farm now than ever. Used to, just a few generations ago, everybody was either a farmer or their grandparent was a farmer or their next door, somebody that you knew a farmer.
Right.
Well, now nobody knows a farmer, and we've gotten a lot of bad information out there. And now that I'm doing these different things, I see it is something that can be changed. We do need to speak up for what we believe in and for what we're doing and show them. And I'm telling you, the general population cannot get enough of it.
Amen. I can tell you what, Ryan, many years ago, I'd heard this guy out in the Panhandle did this little YouTube video, and it's on M&Ms.
Yes.
And so he said, you need to watch it. And that was my introduction to Ryan Jenkins, was an M&M YouTube video. Tell us about that.
Well, like I've talked about earlier, the south end and the north end of the county doesn't talk to each other. So I had two goals. I was tired of people asking, can I see your peanut trees? And do y'all still pick cotton by hand? So, if you're not in it, I can understand that. You've been told that or whatever. So I made a video one day, and it's a very realistic video, and it shows a lot of true information. But, part of my social media deal is I try to get people to connect with, hey, this stuff, these T-shirts that I'm wearing could have been grown in my backyard. These peanut M&Ms that I'm eating could have been grown right here in my backyard. And even in our true backyard here in Jay, there are people that don't realize where our products end up. They know we grow peanuts and they know we grow cotton, but that's kind of where the end of their thought process is. So I made a video. I went out in a peanut field. It was a very beautiful peanut field, but I said, today we're going to check on our peanut M&Ms and see how they're coming along. And I go out there and I show them the peanut M&M field, show them the peanut vines, show them how the peanuts reproduce and make peanuts. And then we pull a couple of peanuts off of the plant and open them up and show them the peanut M&Ms inside the plant, inside the hull. And it just took off from there. It was a kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but that gets people to thinking. They might go look it up on Google. It might start a conversation. So You try to do little neat things like that, throw different statistics out there. A bale of cotton will make this many men's underwear. You know what I mean? You do something and it really gets them to thinking and look, hey, that's being grown right here where I live. So it's a cool story. But people, their thought process stops with the crop that they see in the field. They don't really think further like, hey, this might end up in Bangladesh. You know what I mean? You never know where your product's going to go. And it helps people to understand maybe it is safe. Maybe it is a good product that we're eating or that we're wearing. It could have been grown right here in my county. So I don't know. It's a cool story. And people, like I say, they just can't get enough of it.
Well, they can't. And I can tell you, you started off, it was the northern part of Santa Rosa County versus the southern part of Santa Rosa County, but it's reached out farther than that. I mean, much further than that. Obviously, it hit me in St. Johns County, Florida. That's how I got to know Ryan Jenkins, was from this peanut video. But how far? Where is the furthest you've heard from an effect or at least some kind of touch that you made?
Man, I get messages in those hieroglyphics or whatever their language is they write in that you can't understand. That doesn't look like anything. I get stuff like that all the time. I know I did a TikTok video earlier this year and it's had over 3 million views. So if 3 million people seen it, your message is getting out there.
Absolutely. All right, we talk about social media. You do other things too, on-farm tours and on-farm engagements. Tell us a little bit about some of those.
Yes, I do. Once I realized how people couldn't get enough of it, then I wanted to start getting people on the farm. So I would come up with reasons for people to visit the farm. Two of the things that we do now annually that have really taken off that I'm very passionate about is every year we'll have the local FFA kids come to the farm. We have a ag career day. And the whole goal there the idea is to show kids that there are all kinds of jobs out there that they might not have thought about or known about that can make them feel still connected to their roots, where they came from. Everybody can't be the guy driving the tractor or owning the farm. It's just impossible. But there are so many other jobs available out there that deal with agriculture that make you feel still connected to where you came from, that are very needed jobs. And the goal is to show them, man, if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, it's not important to know the day you graduate from high school what you're going to be when you grow up. I'm 50 years old. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up other than farm. I'm still trying different things, but to show the kids that there are so many opportunities that they haven't realized. And that's what I tell the presenters. That day we'll have between 15 and 20 different presenters from all different aspects of jobs in agriculture. And the hope is, that it piques just one of those kids' interest and maybe turns them around or maybe keeps them in agriculture. And it's turned out to be extremely successful. And then the other thing, and the deal is, you're getting a lot of people on your farm that day, right? You're exposing them to something. Some of them, that might be the first time they've ever been on a farm. The other one, I've talked about being a flight paramedic and working in the fire department, working on the helicopter for many years. That's something else I'm passionate about, is taking care of people. So I realized, hey, here's another opportunity, get some people out on the farm, but it's also something that's going to help us. Now, as we talked about before, so many people are disconnected from the farm. There are so many here in Santa Rosa County. There are so many new people that have moved in and haven't grown up around the equipment that we use. I wanted to show our first responders the types and sizes of equipment that we use, so that when they pull up on the scene of an accident, it's not the first time they've ever seen it, so they can pre-plan, hey, I need extra cribbing or more airbags or whatever the case may be. They're not pulling up on a typical automobile collision, where they work it every day. So the goal was to have them be exposed to that in a non-emergent, non-stressful type situation. But the other part of it is I'm getting them on the farm.
That's right.
I'm exposing them to something they haven't been exposed to before. I'm starting those conversations. So that is another thing that has been very, very successful here at Jenkins Farms. The career day, farm safety day, and just from those alone, that has started tons of conversations.
Ryan, not only do you get people to the farm, you get off the farm as well. You're involved in a lot of different things. You're a county president, Santa Rosa County Farm Bureau, but you do other things too with Farm Bureau. Tell us a little bit about more of what you do off the farm as well, especially in promotion of agriculture.
I don't know that I do much off the farm. I feel like my mind never gets off of it, but I think a lot of people don't necessarily love their jobs. It's a job. It's something they have to do to provide for their family. I'm just one of the few lucky ones that get to do what I love every single day, no matter what it is, no matter how bad things are. I can't wait to get to do it again the next day. So my mind is pretty much always tied to ag. Over the years, I have been fortunate enough to be asked to be on many boards. Almost every single one of them have to do with agriculture. And I think it's because they realize that I'm outgoing, outspoken, and want to share our message and want to share our story and want to make sure that the story that's being shared is the correct one and the information that's being given out is correct. But off the farm, I'm very active in Farm Bureau. Like you say, I'm the president here in Santa Rosa County. That's a new task that's been given to me. I serve on many different advisory committees, from banks all the way up to American Farm Bureau and anywhere in between on the county, state, and federal levels.
Well, I just want to say thank you for your service, because Ryan, I tell you what, it's a sacrifice to do a lot of what you do. And whether you recognize it or not is extraordinarily important, not only to you and to Jay, Florida, to Santa Rosa County, and to Jenkins Farms, but it's important to all of us in agriculture. I just want to make sure that you understand you're appreciated, you're a skilled and capable and very an even popular person in regard to.
I don't know about all that now. I'm just Ryan.
Well, Ryan, talk to us a little bit. Just going back to the social media, which is so important, and it's a part of our culture today. Somebody else may want to get involved in it. Somebody else may want to tell their story and how to. Maybe their farm. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's different, but they want to engage in social media. What kind of advice would you give to a person that wants to get engaged in social media?
Well, first, think about it. Farmers are terrible advocates for themselves. A majority of the farmers want to sit in their tractor and stay on their farm and not deal with people. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
So Absolutely. If you are not one of those people and you are comfortable speaking, start the conversation, throw something out there. I think another thing that people look at, and I had to overcome this as well, I don't ever want anyone to have the perception that I'm bragging or that I'm showing something off or anything like that, if that makes sense. I strictly put stuff out there to educate people. And, a lot of what I put out there is just God's beauty. A sunset over a cotton field or a peanut field, but I'll throw something in there, sunsetting over the peanut M&Ms or, just something to get them to think about what they're seeing. But we've got to be comfortable telling our story. I was sitting in a peanut leadership class one time, and the Georgia Peanut Commission guy, Don Kohler, said he was up there talking, and he said, if you don't tell your story, somebody else will. That's right. And I don't know what was I didn't think he ever said anything profound, but for whatever reason, that was a profound moment in my life. And that's really when I said, you know what? He's exactly right. And that is what the problem is right now in agriculture is somebody else has told our story, and there's a lot of people that believed it. And the story wasn't right. So be comfortable. Put something out there. It doesn't take much. It can just be a picture. You don't have to get on there and give a speech or type out some long something. Get on there. Just put a picture. Just put a picture of your farm. You're not bragging. You're being thankful. That's how I look at it. Buddy, you're not going to meet a more blessed person the rest of your life than Ryan Jenkins. And I want to share that. I'm very thankful for God's blessings that he's given me and for letting me do what I love. It's just worked out, and it's because of him that it's worked out. Start the conversation. If you're at a party and a family get together, whatever, church, whatever the case may be, just interject a little something. Do you know where those come from? You know where that shirt came from? Why aren't you wearing cotton? Whatever, just, it doesn't take much to get the conversation started. but then continue to do it. Don't be scared to start. We have got to tell our story. If we don't begin telling our story now, it's not going to be much longer that we're going to have one to tell. So just do it. It's not bragging. It's not being, conceited or what. Put your story out there and start a conversation, and I promise you will be surprised how far it goes. And then as you're doing these things, after you start doing them for a little while, you're going to realize you start making relationships with people that need to know your story, whether it's politicians or local leaders, right, state leaders, federal leaders, whatever the case may be. It really doesn't take long for this thing to get started and for people to realize, hey, that can be a trusted source of information, and you've built a relationship that's important. I frequently, other than the Farm Safety Day and the Ag Career Day, I'm constantly having field trips, political type meetings with local political leaders, whatever, to get people on the farm and start building those relationships. One of the relationships that I built that has turned into something that has been very successful was there was a local leadership class that they have an ag day as part of their training. And so they came to the farm and I was talking to him about ag. Well, he comes up afterwards and he's a talk show radio host out of Pensacola. So I told him, I have always wanted, I said, I've just had this idea, like if I could get on there and just tell a little bit about ag every once in a while, just give a little State of the Union type speech. You know what I mean? Oh man, that's a great idea. You know what? I've got a perfect spot for you. So a few months later, we started. And every Monday morning at 7:35, Ryan Jenkins from Jenkins Farms in Jay, Florida came on the radio. And I'm telling you right now, just like I said before, the people can't get enough of it. If I go to Pensacola or anywhere in the local area and I'll have a Jenkins Farms hat or a Jenkins Farm shirt, they've never seen me in their life, right? I cannot tell you the number of conversations that have started. And I always end the deal there with a farming fun fact. And so I try to, tie it into whatever season we're in. You would be surprised the number of people that come up. Now, I look those farming fun facts up right then and I say them and then I kind of forget them, right? You would be surprised how many people come up. Oh, are you Ryan Jenkins Farms? I said, yep. Well, the other day, that farming fun fact, you can make this many dollar bills out of a bale of cotton. I never thought about that. But it clicks for them. They love it. And Andrew McKay is the radio host, and he'll send me all kinds of messages that he gets after the show every week. So you never know where this is going to lead, and just don't be scared to do it. Get out there and do it. It's important. It's very important. And it's going to be one of the things that changes the face of agriculture is us telling our story instead of somebody else telling our story.
Ryan, it's no doubt that farmers should be and are the voice of agriculture, and you're the voice. And that's a real blessing. And you mentioned earlier, some people believe that peanuts grew on trees. Now, some on this listening audience may not even realize that they're not grown on a tree. What are some of the other maybe strange or crazy thoughts or say things that have been said to you that you could share?
Those are by far the ones that happen the most. It's like, do y'all still pick cotton by hand? I said, listen here, buddy. I said, I got $1 million cotton picker there that a satellite from outer space drives. I said, I do not pick cotton by hand. I do not even pick my nose by hand. You know what I mean? We're there. The general population has no idea the amount of technology that's being used in agriculture today. And so it's typically, weird questions I start sharing about the technology that we use once they get over the peanut trees and that peanuts grow in the ground. And, there are crops that I have no idea how they grow. I don't know. I can't think of any now, but you know what I'm saying?
Sure,
I mean, you can't be an expert in everything. So you can't knock them. I would assume if I didn't know, I would assume they grew on trees too. But And the picking cotton by hand, that's the picking cotton, the peanut tree deal. That's not their fault. That's not our fault. The picking cotton by hand, that's our fault for not being better storytellers, for not getting the information of the technology that we're using, for not refuting some of this bad information that's out there. So typically in a conversation, it's just questions, and they're nothing to be ashamed of. There's no stupid question, but it's just questions dealing with agriculture, and it just really, as the conversation progresses, their minds are just blown. I think, they think of a farmer with a guy wearing overalls and a straw hat and a hoe in his hand. And that's their vision of a farmer. And they don't realize crazy amount of technology that we use today. And the fact that we don't drive our own tractors. And now there are tractors that don't even have a person sitting on them. So, their mind's blown going from the guy holding the hoe to an autonomous tractor. There's a big gap there that they've got to figure out, When
it comes to technology, you mentioned, especially in regard to equipment, agriculture's advanced enormously in regard to equipment, but also in regard to genetics, et cetera. Do you have any questions about GMOs, and how do you handle that?
They do. And I address them. I'm very cautious. I try to always know my audience and who I'm talking to. I think that's always a wise thing to think about before the day starts, before that session starts. But, I tell them a lot about, one of the examples I use is, and it gets back to the misinformation part, or you'll go buy a jar of peanut butter and on it, it'll say big letters, non-GMO. Well, the deal about that is they're preying on what you're scared of. The deal is there's no such thing as a genetically modified peanut. It doesn't exist. There's not one on the face of the earth. Yet they're going to sell you something because they're going to put that stamp on there, non-GMO, when the fact is you could buy any jar of peanut butter and it's non-GMO. So I think and it gets back to us not telling our story enough and not refuting this bad information to where now they're making money off of us and our non-GMO peanuts, even though one doesn't exist. So, I always try to have a story like that. I also tell them about, the fact that we used to spray our cotton 20 times a season. And now we don't spray it but 3 or 4 times a season. It's gone from a lot of harsh chemicals being used on an extremely regular basis to now very precise chemicals being used on a very sparse basis. And that's all because of the genetically modified cotton. That's because of the BT gene that's keeping the worms out.
That's right.
So when I explain those types of things, we're putting a whole lot less products into the environment. And the ones that we are extremely tested. They're very safe. And I explained to them, used to, you'd put something out there and it would basically kill every insect out there. And now we understand that there are beneficial insects that do a lot of good for us that we don't want to kill. And so, it's very specific what we're doing. And our end goal is to put as few things into the environment as possible. And we wouldn't be able to do it without that genetically modified seed. So there's very, very good parts to all of it.
Absolutely. Truly a benefit to the whole community, to the economy, to the environment, to the ecological surroundings that we have. And thank you for explaining that to a lot of folks that have no idea. Ryan, it's not just Jay, Florida, but Florida agriculture is huge. It's big all the way across this state from one end to the other. What do you think, and what would you identify as the most significant, or maybe one of the biggest issue facing Florida agriculture today?
I feel like there's a lot of issues, and I think singling one out is going to be very difficult. The economic situation in agriculture right now is we're to the point where it's almost impossible to farm anymore. I know the people in our area, there are nothing left in our reserves. Everything's been leveraged that we have. We're on the edge of destruction. We're on the edge, literally, of not being here tomorrow. One more failed crop, it's over for many farmers, and it doesn't matter how well established you are. I'm talking about the ones that have been here 100 years and the ones that have been here 10 years. We're all in the same boat. There's nothing left. I think that is a huge thing. I think urban sprawl and losing land is a huge thing. And along with that, I always say when I go to meetings, it's not just the land that we're losing, it's the people that are buying this land are not ag. A lot of those are not ag friendly. So it's making it harder for us to do our job. I think those two things alone are enough to put Florida agriculture and really American agriculture out of business. I'm very, very, very concerned about it right now. It's very difficult. You know, our cotton that we're growing, we knew when we planted it in the spring and cotton was in the 80 cent a pound range that we were going to be losing money on it, but we still kind of had to grow it, you know? And now we're in the upper 60 cent range. So it's sure enough, even if you make a bumper crop, you're not going to break even on your cotton. So, and there are other all the commodities are down right now. And it's happening at a terrible time for us. Like I say, we're there. We're stretched as thin as we can be. And I think the general population doesn't understand this. And I try to tell this story frequently that once somebody gets hungry or somebody doesn't have clothes to wear, it's too late. There's not going to be any turning back. The time to make a difference, the time for a change, the time for help is literally today. There's not much time left. You know, that's a matter of national security as well. I promise you, everybody that's listening out there, if you don't hear anything else I say, believe me when I tell you, you do not want to have to depend on a foreign country to provide your food and fiber.
That's right.
But that's where we're headed.
Profitability is sustainability and viability to a Florida producer as well as to a U.S. producer. And if we don't stay profitable, we can't stay in business. And what happens to that land? It may not stay in agriculture. It may go to something else. So the profitability of the U.S. farmer, what I'm hearing from Ryan Jenkins is we've got to be profitable to stay on the farm.
Correct. You know, everybody in the industry wants to use the word sustainability. That's all they care about. It sounds good to people's ears. The thought of it just sounds good, right? Sustainability. But typically when you hear sustainability, you're talking about management practices, how you're taking care of the soil, how you're taking care of the environment, how you're taking care of the water. That's what people's idea about sustainability is. But none of that matters if the farmer can't stay in business financially to be able to carry on those practices. It starts with the farmer being able to stay in business. Then we can work on the sustainability part. It's all together. It's all tied together, right? Sustainability isn't just one aspect of it. It requires every single one of them working at the same time, and then you're sustainable.
You know, Ryan, you started off today talking about you're in a beautiful place. And it is. It's a beautiful place. Florida is gorgeous. Santa Rosa County is absolutely beautiful. You talk about working with your dad and then having your boys coming up and now they're working. They're the fifth generation on that farm. It's a livelihood based on a lifestyle that you want to follow through with and engage in and continue. And it's a blessing to listen to. And it's not just the story of Ryan Jenkins. That's a story of many, many farmers all around this state. But people forget when they look at it and they think of you and they come and visit you and they see the aesthetics, the beauty, they don't remember or oftentimes will forget or don't understand this is a business and it has to be run like a business. And I have to do that in order to be able to stay and to maintain this livelihood and lifestyle that I've come to and really appreciate and be grateful for. And we're certainly at the mercy of a almighty God. We're at the mercy of weather and pests and everything else, and technology and all can only get you so far, but it is truly the hand of God that's allowed us to be in this position. But I think a lot of times that profit becomes a bad word. It's been used against us. Folks don't necessarily think that it's a healthy thing. Farmers are extraordinarily rich because you've got $1 million cotton picker. Somebody thinks, well, Ryan Jenkins is just an exceptionally wealthy person. And talking about writing those lines of profit margins is really insanely crazy for them to actually ponder or to understand. Because I got $1 million cotton picker means that I've been able to be more efficient because I'm able to use BT cotton makes me more efficient. It makes it better for the environment, should make the bottom line more viable to the consumer. And yet there's this dichotomy and oftentimes paradoxical relationship that people aren't able to grasp. And I appreciate you sharing that, because it is so critical that people understand this is a business. Yes, it's a family business, but we want to stay in here to help you as a consumer to have a nationally secure food supply, which is imperative to an autonomous nation, a sovereign nation. And we're on the line. We're actually a net importer of food, and the most in U.S. history. That's dangerous.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think something else I talk to people about when I'm talking is when we get into the economics of agriculture, a lot of people have no idea that we buy everything at retail and sell everything at wholesale, and that we're not the ones that set the price on our commodities. You know, I can't think of anybody else in the world's economy that doesn't set a price for the product that they produce. So, you know, we start planting in April in this area, April and May mostly. You know, we harvest our crops in September through about Christmas. There are a lot of things. Somebody sends a bad email somewhere, or somebody drops a bomb somewhere, or somebody miscounts how much cotton or corn or whatever we have, and that price will go haywire. And it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can help yourself with. It's just what's given to you. You know, a lot of people just don't understand that. It's very, very, very difficult to plan a budget every year. And like you say, you know, the $1 million cotton picker thing, I can tell you mine didn't cost $1 million. But if I had to replace it with a new one, they're just a little over $1 million. And that's a prime example of one of those deals where the companies out there, the seed companies, the equipment companies, the fertilizer companies, they know exactly what you've got going, exactly to the penny what you've got going. And they know exactly how far they can squeeze you and leave you just barely hanging on there. And they've gotten the most profit they can get. You know, I was negotiating the other day. We had a little bit of corn to sell, and I was negotiating with a grain elevator. We're going back and forth on price. And he said, well, you got to leave a little bit of meat on the bone for me. And I thought, I almost hung up on him. I'm like, well, what about me? There's no meat on the bone for me. I'm basically paying you to take my corn. So the people don't realize, I mean, we are fighting right now. We are struggling. The agricultural community is in dire straits right now. It is a terrible time to be farming financially. It's very hard. Don't get me wrong. I still love it. I still can't wait to do it. Harvest season is here. We'll probably start next week on our peanuts. And I mean, it's the most exciting time of the year for me. I love the smell. I love the stress. I love the long hours. I love and another thing about a peanut crop is all these other crops you see all summer long, what you think, what your yield looks like, what you think it's going to be. You can tell if there's a lot of cotton on your plants. You can tell if the corn looks good. You can tell if the soybeans look good. But man, it's like a dadgum surprise when you put that peanut digger in the field. You know what I mean? It is like Christmas morning, every field that you go to, because every one of them's different. You just can't wait to turn them up and see. Sometimes you're not so happy, and sometimes it's like, wow, thank you. I needed that, you know?
Talking to a potato farmer, that's for sure. And that's what it is. It is
exactly.
It's the same
you know
thing.
what I mean, don't you? It's like you just don't know till you turn them up. It's a big surprise.
Well, I think a lot of people really need to realize the economic benefit that comes to them, especially in America. You know, we have the lowest disposable income spent of any nation in the world on food. The average U.S. citizen will spend about 10% of their disposable income on food. That is far, far less than any other nation in the entire world. Likewise, the U.S. farmer this last year, Ryan, I think USDA just revised their report this week that farm income is down 7% across the board. It was at 26% was their forecast. It looks like it's going to be 7% now because of some other commodities have done exceptionally well. Grain crops have not and have done very, very, very poorly. And it is a desperate situation, especially in the heartland and into the panhandle of Florida, dealing with cotton, peanuts, corn, soybeans, wheat, etc. Very, very, very critical right now.
Absolutely.
And a very important crops to this nation.
That's right.
National Farmers Day is in October. And what does the significance of that mean to you? Can you share that with just a...
I've never heard of it. No, I'm kidding. What are you talking about? It's important. And you know what? I was just sitting here thinking that could be a perfect catalyst for someone that's thinking about beginning sharing their story on social media. That could be and should be the perfect day to start.
There you go.
So thank you. Thank you for bringing that. I hadn't even thought about that till now. Start on National Farmer Day. Put you a post out there, just a little post about celebrating farming, celebrating agriculture, and take a picture of your farm. Take some pretty picture out there God's given you and show people just one snapshot through your eyes as a farmer. And let that be the beginning of you're telling your story, you being the voice. Let somebody else be a voice for a minute. Do it. Y'all start that. Please. Think right now, every one of you that's listening to me, set the date. What's the date? We don't know what the date is. We'll do better than this. Let's make October National Farmer Month.
There you go.
Yes. So we'll do National Farmer Month. So October 1st, you take a picture for 30 days. You take a picture on your farm, the good, the bad, the ugly. Let's all do that. Let's make American Farm Bureau to start that.
It's October 12th, right?
There you go. Well, I'm going to go with October 1st. Go with October 1st. A picture a day for a month of your farm, and let that be the beginning of your social media presence.
Anything else you'd like to leave with us today? Listening audience, and one thing from Ryan Jenkins to be left with.
Be proud of who you are. Be thankful that God has allowed you to serve in agriculture, and tell your story. Let's get it right. Please, let's get it right. Let's show our American brotherhood the importance of agriculture, the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into making a product that is better than any other in the world. It's the safest in the world. It's the most abundant in the world. Just be thankful for who you are, for what you get to do every day, for being able to have a job that you love. And at the end of the day, remember, you're providing a service for all of mankind. Do it. Just be happy, be thankful, be proud. And I don't like that. Let's erase it.
Ryan.
No, it wasn't. It was terrible. We're going to redo that. It was going good.
He's answered it 100 times. It's just summarizing this deal. That's it.
Oh, no. All right, ask me a question one more time. Maybe something good will come out. Where y'all going today after you get done here?
We're going to head back toward Gainesville so I can be at Lecanto in the morning to be able to do I'm doing actually a career day for a group down at in Lecanto for a bunch of high school juniors, seniors, and freshmen and sophomore college students.
You know, I hope you relay to them that, you know, I was one of those people. My parents were school teachers, both of them. Mom was an English teacher. Dad was a math teacher, and they both taught me for multiple years in high school. So, you know, and at the time, farming, like they weren't on board with this. Both of my parents had farmed, and they saw the struggles. Absolutely. And they didn't want me to struggle. Mm-hmm. I was pretty smart, you know, in general. And they really wanted me to go to school, and I did not go to school. So I want the kids. I remember waking up the morning after I graduated thinking, in my little simple mind, I'm supposed to know now exactly what I'm going to be when I grow up. And my road is supposed to be as straight as it can to get there. I'm supposed to go to school to be an agricultural engineer, and I'm going to work I felt like I was supposed to know what I was going to be, where I was going to work, everything like that. And it freaked me out. I wanted to farm. That's all I knew. I wanted to farm and I wanted to fly. That was my two passions in life. And I remember being so scared. And that's one reason I started this Ag Career Day, was to let these kids know. And that's what I asked every presenter. I said, you get up there and you tell them who you are, what your career is. But I want them to know that you're doing something completely opposite now than you thought the morning you woke up after graduation. I want them to be able to see your career path looks like this. And out of those 15 or 20 presenters, there might have been one in the whole thing that was doing what they thought they were going to do when they graduated high school. So I also wanted them to know how important it is. You don't have to have a college degree. There are jobs that you absolutely need it, and those are great too, but I don't want you to feel less than if you're one of those people that don't love school, that's not your thing, that you just want to work. Those jobs are just as important as the others. So I hope when you talk, you provide a little bit of that. I think they're scared. All right, ask me a question. I was trying to get my mind off of stuff.
I think that was your profound statement right there. Pretty profound.
Yeah.
Don't be scared, be proud.
I just tell them, keep putting one foot in front of the other, and God's going to open doors. And there's so many of those people's stories. One was he was retiring after 35 years as a chemical salesman, and he was going to school to be an ag teacher, and they were getting out for the summer, and they said, such and such has an internship. I think you should go. He went, and that started his career. Never dreamed of doing that, and super successful. You know Absolutely. What I mean? And so I want the kids to hear that it's really okay, and everybody goes through this. I just remember, and I might sound soft or weak or whatever, but man, I did not like that feeling. And, I signed up for college that fall, and I was working for some farmers in the area because we just had,
that's what you do.
Just had a little bit of farm. I hadn't started on my own yet. And I put some work clothes in the truck, and man, I didn't do my mom and dad right, not being truthful, but I would leave and I'd go down the road and I'd change my clothes and I'd go get on a tractor. And, that started really who I am today. So it's everybody's not going to have a perfect path. Everybody's not going to have a perfect highway go down. There's going to be some dirt roads with some dead ends and all that to get to where you are. But if you'll just keep moving and keep believing and keep putting one foot in front of the other, God's going to push you in the right direction. You're going to end up okay.
There's your profound statement. There's about 3 sentences right there that are very succinct and very pointed. Ryan, I want to just say thank you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your service to this industry, directly and even indirectly. And I want to just thank you for it's nice to have a conversation with a like-minded individual that loves this industry, loves agriculture, loves farming, loves his family, more importantly, loves the Lord.
Yes.
And it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today. Love you. Thank you for what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for supporting the Rural Recharge podcast. We hope that you're enjoying these conversations brought to you by farmers for our neighbors. While you're here, please consider giving us a rating or review. It really helps us to continue to share the story of our Florida farm families and their important impact on our local communities. Thank you.